Good evening. In his opening State of the Nation address to the 11th Parliament, President Museveni summed through a voluminous speech that spoke to the nation's progress on infrastructure, economy, and governance. Despite steep resistance from his opposition on the face of the economy and governance credentials, the president insists his economic model and plan are the future for Uganda. Tonight on the spot, we question the direction of the president's speech and his plan for the nation. And to do that, we have the state minister in the Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology, Godfrey Baluku Kabbyanga, and opposition legislator Muwanga Kivumbi. Honorable members, gentlemen, thank you so much for having honored our invitation. I can say a warm welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much, Kamara, and good evening, viewers. You will excuse me, I have a bit of cough, but I don't have COVID, so Honorable Kivumbi shouldn't get scared. But I'm happy to be here on NTV.
I'm equally honored to be here. I've not had a talk show with my good friend here, all the way from Kasese. And of course I'm worried. These NRM people don't isolate. The other day the chief had COVID. He sacrificed a driver and ADC. So, but anyway, I only cared for Mama. So those are matters of the heart. But also on a sad note, you know, we lost a friend, a colleague, Honorable Katolo Wama. It goes without saying.
He was such a good, jolly good man.
He was a living thing.
I had an opportunity to interact with him once in a while.
Such
a wonderful guy.
May the Almighty God rest his soul in eternal peace.
Amen. You know, now that you actually almost began with digressing, because I was not planning to talk about COVID, but now that you've talked about it, and of course the chief executive of the country is self-isolating as we speak, and we here on the spot, we wish him a quick and complete recovery. But let me pick something small there, especially, was it not an error of judgment on the side of the president to have known that he had tested positive for COVID-19 to continue and go in public and meet the people?
I think he was still observing the standard operating procedures, and obviously he had indicated there were 2 tests which were negative and one was positive, so he had not yet got a confirmatory test. And I don't think it was really an error of judgment, because there was still a bit of doubt, but still he observed the standard operating procedures.
Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi, considering that President Museveni, in my view, is the most cautious and the most careful individual anywhere, I could even say in the world, in terms of trying to avoid getting COVID. If he really tests positive for COVID-19, then this virus is unbeatable. Because let's face it, you cannot reach him unless a day before you have tested negative. Even when you go next to him, you'll have to sanitize, you'll have to mask up and keep a social distance. And that has been the case. When all the leaders in the world have been moving free, not President Museveni. And see this.
But until you forget, there is the Almighty God. He works in mysterious ways. And he always does these things to the defeat of our normal logic. So you'll never beat nature. That should tell you how ordinary all of us are. That irrespective of how your detail is and how careful you can be, at a given time, at God's chosen opportunity, you can be under a sickness, or ultimately you can be dead. Which reminds me,
at one point I went to
those mighty fellows that think are so big, they're a virus, not even visible, can really take them under.
Now, talking about God, one day I had an opportunity to go to the Jewish temple and the Western Wall in Jerusalem, and they were forcing each one of us, just like you Muslims, to put something on your head, the skull cap, so that you can go to the Western Wall. And I asked a Jewish rabbi, I said, why are you asking us to do this? And they said, we put something on our head to show that we are human beings and we're limited. this is a reminder of the limitation of man, that whatever we can do, we are still limited because we are human beings. So when we go to pray, we cover there to always know that God is supreme. But anyway, but anyway, another issue you just talked about, in a certain very easy way, but I think it's very serious, because the president did not talk about his driver. He said, I came in here because I'm trying to, adhere to SOPs and save Mama from getting contract the disease. So we moved in separate ways. But that car was not driverless.
Maybe it had a robot.
Obviously, he wouldn't have driven himself, but I strongly believe, obviously, when he was in the car, he had the mask on, and the driver had the mask himself. And I know as soon as they went back to State House, they had to be tested. So, but what I can say is, he had 3 tests. 2 were negative, 1 was positive.
Do you realize
it needed the confirmatory test?
Kabbyanga, do you realize that this seems to be a very easy thing, but if you're trying to save a life, you have to save everybody. If I'm trying to protect myself, save you and him and everyone, probably he could have said, but as far as the driver is concerned, probably he's maxed up, or maybe he's far away.
First of all, we should look at Mama's age. Mama's age. And you know, with COVID, that age, if you get COVID, you can your immunity is not as good as the driver. No, because you see, the driver is a young person, the bodyguard is also a young person. So I had to save Mama.
I appreciate that absolutely.
Yes.
That she needs to be saved. Oh, yes. But I also want to think that everybody is equally vulnerable in some way.
But the driver is safe. So don't worry.
Okay.
but the driver and the bodyguard are safe.
The problem we have, the president has been testing everyone that has gotten to have an access to him since COVID came. Now that he tested positive, whether on a 3rd trial or on a suspicion, no confirmatory, that required him to apply the same standards he has been applying to others. Isolate. We had a very violent campaign. Part of it was an accusation on Honorable Kyagulanyi in particular, that he was not observing the COVID SOPs. Now, and therefore was engaging irrespective of that. And there was brutality, and people were killed. Now that he had tested positive, it called a moral high ground, just a moral example, moral high authority. I'm not even so sure why we have in the hierarchy the vice president, and you have, in absence, you have a speaker, is to anticipate those scenarios. So was this one the occasion where the president would have applied the same standards he has harassed his opponent, especially Kyagulanyi, for, and then says, here we go?
No, but how was Kyagulanyi engaging, and how did he engage? Because we have also to separate these things, and this is reality. Obviously, Honorable Kyagulanyi, he was not keeping that social distance. And you know how when people saw him, they come and curve towards him. But the president came, he was a distance away from everybody, and he didn't even take photos, by the way. He for the first time, because there is always a tradition that after the State of Nation address, there is a photo session. He didn't. Immediately after his speech, he went back to his vehicle. So that also is very important to note, that the way the president protected himself, keeping a distance from the people, was different from the way Kyagulanyi would do it. Because automatically, Honorable Kyagulanyi, whenever people see him, they will come.
Let me ask you.
And they will even make body contact. Even if Honorable Kyagulanyi said, I have COVID, there are some people who say, no. Want to probably greet you.
But I want to ask you,
security
with or without a test, in the kind of circumstances, the president would have maintained the same distance. Okay? He has been taking people through those tests and still maintaining the same distance. Actually, if you test positive, don't even maintain the distance, stay away.
But he would
From
have,
that function.
yes, he would have maintained
so
the
here
same
he
distance.
is, he tested positive,
He would have,
knowingly that it was contagious and a risk to the broader people mass. He still came and attended the
he
function.
would have maintained the same distance, yes, but he would have also, say for instance, when he comes near you and starts waving, he would have taken photos, so that one he avoided completely, because he knew he had to protect the people.
You know,
And
he's isolating now. He could have started isolating then.
Yeah.
That's what he's trying to tell you.
Yes.
Yes, he shouldn't be realizing now that I need to isolate now. He should have known that isolation should have started then. That's the whole point. But I want to go to the State of the Nation address. By the way, having said that, we wish him a quick and complete recovery.
Thank you.
When it comes to those matters, I also wish him to
You wish him a quick recovery.
a quick recovery. Because we want him
So to come and engage.
To come and engage.
No, we want him to be there when he witnesses a new change of government.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't want just a virus to take him away. The General Savarwan, you cannot go like that.
I like that courage.
So the State of the Nation address, Honorable Godfrey Kabbyanga, I expected the President to give us an account of the country from June 2022 to June 2023. But what is the rationale and what is the tactic and the whole, strategy of the President going back to 1986? 37 years down the road, the President is still regurgitating the same statements. With quite frankly, and with a lot of respect, you need some time to listen to the President once in 10 years, because the speech will always be the same. Is it the strategy, or maybe he's limited in what to say?
I don't know if that question coming from a journalist. I don't know how you bring it in, because you have seen your news here. Whenever you are bringing out something, you start with the background. You know, one time I quarreled with the NTV here. Whenever they bring Kasese.
When you are mayor of Kasese.
Exactly. Then they bring the clashes which happened in 2012. You're getting me? Building the story. So the president can't give a state of national address, the status of the nation, without building the story.
It always has to be from 1986.
Oh yeah, there must be aspects of 1986. How was the economy then? And this time, I was happy he didn't dwell much on that background.
Okay, just hold there. This time you are happy he didn't, and most of the times you're not happy because he does this thing. These are the words. This time you're happy because he didn't dwell on it much.
Yes.
But most of the times he dwells on it and you are not happy.
No. So what I can say
and this is where my problem is. On the times when you are not happy, when he does the thing that he does.
This time
you are happy.
He brought out the background very well, but he didn't spend a long time on that, because sometimes when he spends a long time on that, he takes a very long speech.
Honorable Godfrey Kabbyanga, it's exactly, that is exactly my point, that in most cases, he will dwell on the history, even you yourself, you're not happy. Only that maybe yesterday you felt it was better. But why does he have to dwell on the history to make you unhappy and the rest of Ugandans?
But you cannot bring out the status of the nation without looking.
Are you even listening to yourself? That sometimes you are unhappy because he regurgitates the same old stuff.
Probably you are quoting me out of context. I'm saying this time he didn't dwell on that much.
Yeah, this time.
And that one.
I can agree with you, but most of the time. But most of the time.
That one I think was good for you. Now why do you again?
And most of the time. And most of the time. He's regurgitating. He's regurgitating.
Sometimes he dwells much on that, but this time he had to bring out that background. He brought out the background, and you have to bring it out. If you want to understand the status of this economy and appreciate it, you must bring out that background very well. And I know you don't want to listen to it.
No.
But it is necessary.
First of all, he's my president.
Exactly.
First of all, he's my president.
Yes.
And then, I'm as a journalist and somebody who does this kind of work, I am supposed to actually listen very keenly.
Exactly.
There is a point, Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi, where the president was reading the speech, And on the growth figures, he seemed to have said, you know, these ones were prepared by the Ministry of Finance, and I don't quite really believe them, but I think the economy is going to grow like this. You know, as if there is a conflict in the speech he's presenting, and yet this is his speech.
First of all, let's go back to the state of nation. It's a constitutional obligation on part of the president. It is enshrined and anchored on a foundation that the sovereign authority emanates from the people, and that they choose a leader as a chief servant, and occasionally, annually, he's going to come and give an account of the state of affairs Uganda, are there unflinchingly, without fear or favor or any contradiction. Harsh, brutal, honest truth as it may be. The good news, the bad news. Because it's from after that that he asked people to make a sacrifice in terms of giving revenue so that he can face the challenges. It's also an occasion to celebrate achievements. They may not necessarily be even economic or even in social affairs. If Uganda has achieved something here that is so good, is so transformative, please bring it out. And elsewhere, it comes with a little bit of a celebration. And you know, that's when you invite those achievers annually that have stood out in various fields for the country to recognize them. Now, is that what the president achieved? And it's an occasion that citizens look up to get to know who are you. It's like shareholders of the company, the annual general meeting, where you are going to be told whether you have dividends, whether you've made losses, whether the company is faring well, where the targets and the objectives, the values, everything. The chief executive, who can be an MD, this time called the president, comes to account. Actually, this is when the people are the masters, and the people must listen. So two things struck you. I sometimes move around this city when we have Nkuka. Yeah? Mm-hmm. This Nkuka here in Bulange. So I'm not quite a regular attendant.
The end of your party for CBS, right?
For CBS, okay. Or for whatever media. Mm-hmm. All now, but when you pass around the town, all when Arsenal is playing, you'll find people standing in trading centers, glued to a TV. Or people call off work to say, please put a radio. Or when you are in a taxi, you get it. People tune. Do people tune in to listen to the president giving an account? Now, if you dwell so much in history, without clear demarcation, because if you deal in history 40 years ago, tell us, where was Vietnam? Where was Cambodia? And I'm speaking about countries that had similar challenges like we had. Where was Dubai or Arab Emirates 40 years ago, by the way?
Actually, they were getting help from Somalia.
So where was Dubai? Where our people are going for Cheyo? So what has happened? So you need, just not give us those figures. Give us also where others have moved on. Even in neighborhood, if you move to Rwanda, you move to Kenya, you move to Tanzania, we've been almost in similar situations. How far have they moved on? And therefore you give an account. So if you want to give us that comparison, be that honest. Don't just tell us miserable figures. Tell us, you know, the big GDP was, how many people were there then? By that time, if you want to tell us, government would sponsor all people who are in senior 6. Were you born by that time? When Obote was the president, the moment you joined senior 5, government will take you on up to university and pays you. Hospitals, we are functional. Not just buildings, but there are more built health facilities under NRM than at any other time. I have the statistics. But those are just structures. When you go for service delivery, zero.
Okay.
So what we needed to hear from the president is how much do you provide for me? How much money do you provide me in your budget today for health care? Per child going to school. You know, these are small things that we needed to hear from the president speaking. Did he? So going back to the history, life is about now and about the future. The history is just about a perspective. So dwell on the now and the future and give us a little perspective of what it is. But if you dwell half of the 3 hours on the perspective, we want to speak about now.
Honorable Kivumbi and Honorable Godfrey Kabbyanga, gentlemen, we're going to take a break, and on the spot, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guests tonight are Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi and Honorable Godfrey Kabbyanga. And we want to look through the state of the national address as given by President Museveni yesterday. The president gave quite a very positive outlook of the economy, and he thinks it's going to grow by almost 7%, and that's something good. But when you look at how, for example, the budget is, and how the big chunk of the money is into recurrent expenditure, into consumption, I wonder how some of these goals are going to be realized, Honorable Kabbyanga.
I think, first of all, the biggest chunk of the budget is going into debt, paying the debt. If you look at the structure of the budget, which Kivumbi is an expert in, and that's very unfortunate. That's why he was saying, I think, starting from now, we should start cutting our cloth according to the size. We should really squeeze ourselves such that we don't borrow.
But is he being exemplary when he says something like that?
Oh yes,
does he live a frugal life?
Yeah, he's very exemplary on that, because that is his idea now, and he's sticking on it. But he has also, if you look at his priorities, you see that the sectors which he wants to invest in are sectors which are really going, if we can get the money there, I think we are going to achieve.
But that doesn't look like
what he wants.
that doesn't look like someone living a life that is frugal. 500 million electricity bill, 500 million water bill, 300 million for his clothing wardrobe, 600 million for his furniture. I don't know, $1 billion every day. Does that sound like frugal?
You know, now when you are talking about all those, you think it is him. But that is the institution of the presidency. The president can't spend that money on his clothing. You even see the shirts he puts on.
That's why I'm thinking even the money. That's why I'm thinking even the money is so inflated.
There is a whole institution of the presidency. He has workers who must have uniform and others. But we have not bothered to go into details. If you are talking about electricity bills, you should look at how many state lodges do we have in the country. That one we are not looking at. But I think people just look at Nakasero and Entebbe. Water bills the same. It's not necessarily for State House Nakasero or State House Entebbe. There are so many other state lodges which are scattered around the world, around the country.
We have Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi, and his job is to appropriate. He's the one who appropriates the money.
And probably we should have...
He's the one who gives the money.
should have looked at the details, because they give him the whole what? The whole budget. But you know, when you talk about it in the lump sum, it looks so funny without looking at the breakdown, the details.
The devil is in the details.
But I strongly believe,
yes,
if we can take his priorities, the 11 priorities, if we can take them right, and we appropriate enough money there, we appropriate money for energy, we appropriate money to develop these industrial parks, we capitalize UDC and UDB, we put more money in road infrastructure, I think we can do it. And also, these loans which we are getting, if we can absorb them, because it's one thing to get the loans and another to
use them.
Okay, we shall reach there.
Muwanga Kivumbi, the economy is also your area, I suppose, and the president gave us quite a positive outlook of where the economy is likely to be and how it's going to move. What do you pick from his
First, let me clarify
submission?
one. The money you talk about, there are two votes. There is vote 1 and vote 2. Vote 1 is for presidency. It has many things, commissioners, many things under presidency. Now, vote 2 is state house. And the mandate of the vote is well spelled out. Is to cater for the person of the president. So the money we talk about,
the money Parliament give, because you are the one who appropriates this money.
Those monies are not for vote 1, they are for vote 2, which is for state house, which is not the office of the president. It is for state house. That's where every single day we maintain him at a going cost of 2 billion shillings. Every single day. It's the second biggest consumer of classified expenditure.
Wait a minute. President Museveni consumes 2 billion Uganda shillings on every day.
The cost of maintaining of running State House is 2 billion every single day. Because by the time of the close of the year, the gentleman has used close to 700 billion. So simple mathematics. A year has got 365 days. So it comes to 2 billion. That is maintaining State House, not even presidency. Actually, the budget of presidency is not too big. It's 246 something billion. But this one, going by this budget, is going to be 400 and something. By the time it always the first consumer of a supplementary, it will always go to 700, and that has been the norm. Secondly, that is maintaining our presidency. Secondly, the second biggest, I'm now giving you lines that where you spend money. And we need to unpack this now for the good of the country. People are speaking about tourism, parks, what? The biggest amount of money will go to classified expenditure in the Ministry of Defense. 1.9 trillion. And this year's budget was the most funny one. You see, for the last 5 years alone, under classified expenditure, you've spent 16 trillion on acquiring special equipment. That contractual obligation ended this financial year. And this is the abuse of this so-called classified thing. Because now I know it's just a nomenclature to hemorrhage a country. The other day, they've been justifying that this money is for meeting a contractual obligation. But this financial year, they took away 335 billion to cater for wages. You come to the budget, we appropriated you for money to meet a contractual obligation. That project exited this financial year. But to our amazement, now they could not, because we had already flagged it as an ending project, they shifted the same amount of money to now retooling and are classified. To make matters worse, we now saw money that had been brought to Parliament to be for coffee thing of this Rwabogo and Kabbyanga and the likes. Okay, the 30 billion, and those want 100 billion, by the way. They now gotten only 10 million US dollars, which is 37 billion. It was shifted to classified expenditure. We say, how did the coffee chain
become classified. Okay.
Become classified. So when you go back to look at how we maintain the president, you ask as a commander-in-chief, who is the biggest consumer of classified expenditure? So forget about the 2 billion. Then he should, and this is the money that is not accounted for, by the way. It is accounted for secretly. It's not even scrutinized by Parliament. It's now that we've seen the glaring abuse that we are saying, wait a minute, this is another hemorrhage. So as the president stands out there to do all the kind of grandstanding on being frugal, on being everything, we're asking him, could he live simple so that the poor may simply live? It is a simple thing. Could the leaders, we the leaders, live simple? In this year's budget, doing a budget for, you know, there is a column, for you don't know, called expenditure by item, where the amount, how many new cars will you buy this financial year? It's an amazing figure. How much, how many new vehicles? Some are ceremonial vehicles that can't even reach the constituents of some of the top officials that buy these vehicles. I can tell you the one for the Speaker of Parliament cannot go to Bukedia because there are no roads, including the ceremonial vehicle for the president can only move him from Nakasero to Kololo in the worst case scenario to Entebbe. Beyond that, that Benz doesn't take you anywhere. So do you hemorrhage a poor country spending your money this way?
Okay.
And then at the end of the day, we are choking on debt.
You made your case. Considering what you've had and considering the positive outlook the president gave, clearly there's some kind of financial discipline somewhere in how the money is being spent by the executive. So can we actually attain these goals?
Yeah, you know, there is no financial indiscipline at all, because some of this classified expenditure is actually, as he has put it, into equipment and retooling. Now, priority number 1 on his priorities for next financial year was peace and security, to protect people and their property. And one thing I would like to tell Ugandans, without peace and security, even the economy can't grow.
That's true.
Because you can't do business. Yeah. So some of this money has gone into equipment, and that equipment is why we are what we are as Uganda now. We are not afraid of any external aggression. We are also not afraid of any internal aggression. We can manage now. We can manage as a country.
Let's look into
to absorb any disturbance.
Let's look into the specifics, because the president has been talking about value addition for as long as I can remember. Does it really make sense, after 37 years at the helm, that we are still, in some cases, or if not all, exporting our goods in their raw form?
But
and yet every day we talk about value addition.
That's what now is coming up to. He's saying, look, let us now go into industrialization and add value to our products. But I'm telling you, we couldn't have done that without stabilizing the country. We first of all needed to secure the country so that investors can come in, so that even Ugandans who want to invest are sure that the investment is secure. And now, as a country now, we have reached a point where we can now go into full blast into value addition. That's why he wants more money to go to UDC and UDB.
How much did they put there?
So that people can go and borrow.
How much did they put there?
I think you know the figure very well.
So, are you aware that as we speak right now, there are over 62 trucks at Nimule on the South Sudan-Uganda border that have been impounded by the South Sudanese because they do not want us to export our goods there? They accuse us of goods to be contaminated, aflatoxins and all that kind of stuff. Some of them, these are non-tariff barriers facing our traders. How can we grow our economy if we cannot really sometimes trade so freely with our neighboring countries? You remember the other day the issue with milk in Kenya. Now the Sudanese are not getting our goods. these are not something that point to an economy that's going to grow.
Some of these people are going against the protocols which you have signed as East Africa. But what I want to also assure Ugandans, that some of those non-tariff barriers and disturbances will always be there. But because we are working under the East African community and we have protocols, we shall continue engaging. That's why when the milk was, they banned our milk from going to Kenya, there was an engagement and the milk started going. Even Sudan, right now, the first deputy prime minister and the first deputy prime minister and the minister of East African Affairs, he's already engaging Sudan. But according to what she said, Sudan had already indicated, because now for them they have started, I think, testing. They were they call it pre-what? They first test the products before they go. I think their Bureau of Standards is now very, 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 very frugal. So what the Ugandans were used to the former system, and now when this system came up, they were caught unawares. But our first deputy prime minister is negotiating, and I think it will be sorted. Those non-tariff barriers will always be there.
And you know, by the way, also that it is one thing for the goods to be allowed to cross from Nimule to go to Juba, but the journey between Nimule and Juba, some Ugandans have died along that road.
Yes.
It's very insecure.
It's very insecure, but that's not our country.
It's not our country, yes.
It's not our country. So you'd have blamed us if there is any death between Kampala and Nimule. But you can now see now how we are doing very well.
All right.
Now, at a certain point, we had to go to South Sudan to sort out that security issue. We had to go there because we are interested in that market in South Sudan. We had to go to Eastern Congo, North Kivu, to secure North Kivu, because now our biggest trading partners is Congo and South Sudan. So we must secure all those, all that space.
I'm asking this, Honorable Kabbyanga, is that because that is one of our biggest markets, when there is a glitch on that market, I expected in the State of the Nation address, the President to address that issue and how it is being handled, maybe at the presidential level, how they are dealing with it, because it's one of our big market and there was a problem and he didn't address it. But also talking about security, Honorable Kabbyanga, I think what happened in Somalia a couple of weeks back is probably the single most worst incident in battle to have happened to the UPDF or even NRA, where you lose 54 men. So there are 54 families right now that are mourning the death of their beloved ones. The president, in addressing the nation, when he should have given us the good, the bad, and the ugly, I don't remember him talking about the incidents of Somalia. And the body bags will be coming very soon.
First of all, he's still establishing facts. You cannot just go and talk about something which involves death of people without establishing the real facts. Two,
up to yesterday, the chief executive of the country does not have facts about what happened.
He has facts, but he has...
But in Chankwanzi, he was able to talk about the figures.
Yes, he was able to talk about
But why couldn't he tell the nation? Because I think this is one of the, probably the single most worst incident in battle to happen to the UPDF.
It is the single most worst incident in battle to have happened to UPDF in so many years. But you should know that even the most powerful countries have suffered such. The Americans have suffered. Actually, the Americans, they ran out of Sudan, of Somalia. You know that. And they're the most powerful. So that incident can happen to any country.
Yes, it can.
Whether powerful or even those which are more powerful.
I'm not saying why it happened.
What I'm saying,
we expected our chief executive to address this issue.
Exactly.
But he did not.
And he's going to address it because he has already promised he's going to address it.
Because this was the biggest speech of the year for the president.
But that speech cannot give details of such a thing. There are so many details which are not in a State of Nation address. He's giving the status. But if you want him to go into details, President Museveni always has presidential addresses from time to time. And I know he's going to address the Ugandans specifically on what happened in Somalia.
All right. Yes. But Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi, as a member of parliament in the opposition, very briefly, how would you handle the economy in this situation?
First of all, you start from the perspective they don't want to listen to. If you come from a paradigm where you think that it's peace and security that guarantees prosperity and tranquility, then you will continue to be in the same mindset. There are those who think that after attaining a certain level of peace and stability, the country begins to enjoy what we call a peace dividend. And when you begin to enjoy a peace dividend, you move away from that paradigm, where now it is the economy that secures the peace and stability. It is how healthy your economy is that you are able to speak to peace and stability and security. And with that, you also begin to look at what we call durability.
And how inclusive it is.
And predictability. Very durable and predictability. That only happens when you have guaranteed economic growth. Now, when you see people coming from that paradigm of thinking that you invest huge amounts of money in weaponry, in intelligence, in whatever, in political structures, the way we think, consequently, the need, because people are poor, that's why we speak about the new urban gorillas. Because people are poor, the agitation will be high, you will need more equipment. So that's why, worldwide, there is no poor country that can be superpower. You have to first attain a certain level of prosperity for you to be a superpower. That's where you get it wrong.
But you see, so also, Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi, you have to respect them for the fact that they have been able to hold power for 37 years. There was a time when the people could not even hold the power. And when, in doing so, people like you and others can actually even get a job in that environment and earn and develop yourself.
Let me tell you.
Because otherwise you would be moving in and out, you know, as refugees.
Well, let me...
That's a plus.
Let me tell you also, as a plus. It is very easy, by the way. You can even govern for 100 years as a group when your people are wallowing in poverty. Because all you've got to do is to, you know what, brutalize them, intimidate them. And so we've seen it happen. Failed regimes can last longer. Gaddafi, who mentioned them, where we're having instability. By the way, profound state failure has followed across Africa a certain duration of so-called quasi-political stability. Somalia, you are talking about, under Said Barre, had a durable kind of forceful stability. Congo, that is collapsing, under Mobutu Sese Seko, had the same kind. Gaddafi of Libya had the same kind of false stability. Under Mubarak, Egypt had the same kind of... Sudan, for quite some time, as we were fighting here, Sudan, northern Sudan, what we now called Sudan, was a fairly stable country. Do you even walk that street? Therefore, don't look at 40 years and a little bit of a false stability, because stability should not be absence of war. It should be, are people at ease with themselves? Are the people happy? Are the indexes okay? Can people freely participate, freely voice their concern in the unimpeded? If those are absent, don't be fooled by longevity of a stay of a regime in power. Right. It will collapse. Now, on running an economy, you will run away from that paradigm of security and peace and begin to see, how do I grow the economy? How can I build an economy that is inclusive? How can I build an economy? Better they stated them. They only moved homogeneous, they said integrated, self-sustaining economy. You know, those were wonderful. And integrated.
And fighting corruption.
And fighting corruption. So they said all those right things in there. But then they fall into the trap what they call, you need stability, and you justify wrong expenditures, wrong things, because under security cover, you are able to evade scrutiny and transparency and accountability. But if you are pure growing your economy, and you are looking at investment, it talks about UDC, okay? UDC is supposed to be a vehicle for us to invest as a country. What does it go to do? Today it is a conduit for conmanship.
All right.
No, and I will elaborate this before you even take me off. If you want to con Uganda, you go through UDC. UDC. That's why Amina has conned this country now a cool 700 billion in the name of Atiak sugar, where there is not even a single kilo of sugar that comes up from there. That is under UDC, where Rocco has conned this country. Under UDC is where Abubakar has conned this country. Under UDC,
okay.
They pass through UDC to con this country. Even under UDB, whoever takes the money from there. So don't look at those things now for what they are. They are conduit for siphoning resources from the people.
Hold on.
And for me, secondly, President Museveni said something that for me, I gave up. He said, you see, if you want to see poverty, that was his statement, then two things. Fair, halfway right. One, if you see more people living in rural areas, then there is poverty. Then secondly, if you see fewer people living in urban areas. But here is the man saying the game changer is the passive development model, which is keeping people in villages. You are saying if you see more people in villages, then that is a sign of poverty. Then you are here on the same platform, miraculously, saying, I have a game changer. The game changer is to keep you in the village. What a contradiction.
All right, hold on to your points, gentlemen. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we shall have to open our platform so that you too can be a part of this discussion. You already have the number, our WhatsApp number. You can send your comment or your question. If the question is going to Honorable Godfrey Kabbyanga, please be specific, or Honorable Kivumbi. But if you disagree with my guest this evening, that's the nature of the debate. I only ask you to disagree with respect. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guests tonight are Honorable Godfrey Kabbyanga, Minister of State for Information and Technology, and Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi, Member of Parliament. Now, it is the moment when I get to read your comments and the questions that you've been sending. And let me begin with the Caleb Javira. He says, what proof can he give the country that the industries he talked about are owned by government of Uganda? When he talks of mechanized agriculture, how much did he allocate for it in the budget to show concrete evidence that he meant what he said? Uganda is tired of rhetoric speeches without substantial government commitment. And let me also, John Muyoba says, I think we can commend the president and the government for the good work they have done, increased GDP growth, improved security, and successful implementation of the parish development model are all positives we can take. However, more needs to be done to address income inequalities. Somebody said he didn't listen because there was nothing new. And Kiria Nayaga says the president was very futuristic. And Shaban Chalgonza says there was nothing new. And so some of those, there are two conflicting scenarios there. Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi, somebody says, well, there's nothing to show, but another person says this was very good. How do you respond to some of those two conflicting views from Ugandans who have sent them tonight?
Of course, the State of Nation's address is always a partisan statement. Unless you have an exceptional statesman who truly captures the entire mood of the country and speaks to it. I have not had the president be that person, and he will never be. Therefore, out there are people who are supporters, and they are willing, bloggers, they are willing to bat on the part of the president and on part of government. Be as it may, what the people of Uganda now want to know and want to realize is that this is a ritual. I captured that statement from nothing new, same rhetoric, because my minister here was like saying, we are going to invest in ICT, in value addition. How much money? The biggest elephant in the house today, which you touched at the very beginning, is still our failure and our appetite to borrow. Actually, this GDP debt ratio are not the issue, because Japan GDP debt ratio is 250. The big issue is you borrow to do what? Now, today we are borrowing for recurrent expenditure. As I speak now, something is happening in Parliament, which I'm watching very carefully, where some other technical people are trying to forge some kind of a resolution. We ended Parliament, a session, government does not have even the money to pay wages, to pay the current obligations which you have as a country. And we are going to borrow now. We borrowed, and we are going to borrow more money to just pay wages. So if you are borrowing for those purposes, please, and you are losing 6 trillion on interest payment, 6 trillion on interest payment. Here you are saying 1 trillion invested in the PDM is a game changer, but you are losing 6 in interest payment. Yet you are saying 1 trillion in a PDM is a game changer. How about where you are being hemorrhaged by 6 trillion? So therefore my humble view and obligation part is that the people must know. And when the president spoke, did he tell you the debt? We have now gone to 86 trillion debt. Do you know the paying period? We are now 90 years without further borrowing. It will take us 90 years for us to rig out of this debt crisis.
All right, but also there are kudos. So one gentleman thinks we are on a right trajectory, and he's in full agreement with the president and happy to see how the economy is going. That should be sweet music to you, Honorable Kabbyanga.
Obviously, we are on the right trajectory, and just as you have said, the president was very clear. He's also looking at that date as a president, and he was not happy with it, and he mentioned it, that please let us now cut our cloth according to the size. Let us not borrow for the sake of borrowing. And just as I started, my appeal to Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi and all of us who are overseers, because we are supposed to do an oversight role, let us assure that all these loans which we have are put to good use. Because the absorption is one of the biggest problems.
There should be value for money.
Yes, there must be value for money, but we should also absorb them.
Let me also get some.
If we are borrowing for roads, let us make the roads as fast as possible so that the roads can facilitate trade, and then we start earning. So when we are paying interest, at least we have started earning. We have got dividends from the loans which we borrowed. I think that is very, very important.
I want to agree with you on that one. Let me try also to get some views from other Ugandans who are sending them now. And I have somebody called Sembusi Ivan from Kalerwe. He says, Mr. Kamara, thank you for... for me, the following are some of the key issues which I expected His Excellency the President talk about during NRM Chankwanzi retreat and yesterday's SONA. 1, he says, gun violence. 2, suicide. 3, armed robberies. 4, extrajudicial killings. 5, the angry men with guns. 6, moral decay. 7, economic hardship. 8, unemployed and poverty among Ugandans. 9, poor social service delivery. 10, salary enhancement. That is according to Mr. Ivan Sembusi. And another person says here, Elijah says, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, and head officials, i.e. Dr. Cheng, Diana. I'm not honoring their titles for the lack of a better expression, but those people have betrayed medical interns. We shall celebrate their horrible time when it comes. Currently, no intern can upgrade or get a license to work anywhere, but just stranded painfully. Ministry of Health has become a stumbling block to healthcare delivery. Ministry of Health, that is a comment from Elijah. Let me also try to, I'm going to get two more. Thank you for the show. Help me and ask Honorable Kivumbi whether, as a member of parliament, he understands the core interests of our country and whether he merges the understanding in his submissions. Sometimes we are confused because some MPs celebrated the Somalia incident. The maize South Sudan is not being talked about. The milk and egg products are being rejected in Kenya. And I believe this would be a good reason to engage government on. Let Honorable Kivumbi educate me on this. This is called Bailon and is in Makindye. Thank you, Bailon. Let me take the last. Thank you for the program. Let us accept that there is nothing which is going to be done in Uganda if Mr. Museveni is still the president. Let them enjoy till they get tired. This is Azed from Nansana. The speech he gave yesterday was like he doesn't live in Uganda every time he talks of 1986. Thank you so much for your comments and for your questions. I must tell you, my producer left quite a number of comments because some of them were bordering to abuse, so we can't use them. Thank you so much. Okay, Muwanga Kivumbi, you could, from there.
Yeah, I think I heard the gentleman who really said, gave up, as it seven things he wanted the press to talk about. The day, and he did not hit it even on the nail, the biggest awaited speech of this president, Yoweri Museveni, is when he will speak about a transition. On that day, he will be listened to by millions of people. The people want to know. They want to avoid Sudan, they want to avoid Somalia, they want to avoid Congo, they want a roadmap on a transition. Because one is aging. He's just acknowledged that the first lady is, and is younger than the president, said advanced age of the first lady makes him vulnerable. So the people want to be very clear about the transition. The people of Uganda now are very clear demanding the president to account for the democratic credentials of this government. We are speaking about a return to dark ages, detention without trial, being detained in ungazetted areas. We've just had these, what are they called, these drones picking up people. You've had all this litany of abuse. The people of Uganda want to see the president clearly speaking about corruption. He came to a platform to address when the vice president, when the speaker of parliament, when the minister of finance himself, when the prime minister were under a scandal. And he was mum. They were just seated there. He was mum. About those are the things people want to say. You've stolen Mabati. You've stolen this. You are here, you are my minister. Those are the things. That's the president, the people of Uganda, Museveni would have loved to listen to. Did he even say anything about Mabati? What?
All right,
but when you go to the people, that's the biggest talk. So he's out of tune with the reality. He's just preaching Parishimodo, Parishimodo. People know that Parishimodo will be like any other Myoga, Tandikwa, Simanya Sujuyi, Kulembeka. Those things we've heard them. They all amount to nothing. All right. And they'll not be a game changer.
All right. How do you respond to some of those comments, Honorable Kabbyanga?
Yeah, first of all, the issue of Mabati, which Honorable Kivumbi is bringing about, there is a case going on in court.
Against
that would be contempt of court. There is investigations. He has already ordered the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, CID, DPP to handle, and it's going on. And you should also know that it's not opposition which found out that Mabati had been stolen. It is the State House Anti-Corruption Unit that Mabati had been allocated to not really stolen because the case is not yet, but it had been allocated to people, to non-beneficiaries.
And the ministers are in court.
Exactly. And the ministers are in court. So why should he again
Which
come?
ministers?
Honorable Kitutu is in court, Honorable Agnes is in court, Honorable Uganda is in court.
Who took the most amount of Mabati?
The rest investigations are under. So why do you want the president to start talking about?
Why not?
But he has already instructed.
Isn't the gay bill in court? The gay bill, wasn't it in court? The gay act, isn't it in court?
Right now.
Yes. Yes. Didn't he talk about it?
Yeah, but
was it extrajudicial?
How did he talk about it?
No. Was it extrajudicial?
But how did he
No, the question is, didn't he talk about it?
He talked about it.
Yeah, how isn't it in court?
He was clarified.
Isn't it in court?
He was clarified. They have not even started.
No, but it is in court.
But they have not yet served the government.
It is in court.
They haven't served the government.
It is in
yet.
court.
Okay. All right.
But all these issues which the gentlemen were talking about, that he didn't talk about poverty, he talked about poverty. He has told us, look, let us go into commercial agriculture. Let us go into industry, services, and ICT, so that we can get our people out of poverty. One other thing which we can agree on, all of us, that education is a game changer. And that's why he's saying, please, if it is UPE, let children go to school.
And he has put how much money per head?
Go to school.
Per head, how much
I think
money?
that's now what me
As
and
competition
you...
grant.
That's what me and you
No,
and him
10K.
who are in the parliament
10K
should
per
push
term.
for
10K.
more money
Actually,
to
per
be
year.
appropriated to
No,
education.
I'm saying 10K per year.
Because education is a game changer.
2,500 shillings per Ugandan for health care.
And that's where I feel education as a game changer. We should really put more money.
All right. Okay.
So the issue of poverty, he talked about everything. But I think some people want to pick out
our time is out. Honorable
probably
Kivumbi,
transition.
Yes. Honorable Kivumbi,
the
very
transition
briefly.
which Honorable Kivumbi is always very anxious about. We are going into elections.
No.
Yes.
He has amended our constitution.
You have said
for many times.
Actually, you are here talking on TV.
He said that parliament is corrupt.
And your views are being heard.
No, he said that parliament.
No, this is if he wants transition, just beat him in the election.
No. You are saying parliament is corrupt. I was asking him, didn't he bribe them to pass the age limit? Didn't he bribe parliament to pass the nani?
So your colleagues have the price.
No,
you guys have the price in parliament.
No. What I'm saying, you are saying you are corrupt. He's been paying parliament.
So you members of parliament have
actually he's been corrupting that institution.
So you want to say you are corrupt?
No, he has been corrupt. No, he has been corrupted. Don't people know? So he's been corrupting it, and we're saying because of your corruption, you are delaying the attack. You are delaying what I know what you are.
A man who is here, he's a noob. He went through elections, a free and fair elections. He said he wants to transition.
Was it fair?
Yes, why are you here?
Don't you want transition?
They didn't have a mechanism. If you say it was why didn't they cheat yours? You were here. You were here, and you are even talking here on TV freely. But you are portraying the country as if you are stifled. Who has stifled you?
And you.
Honorable, okay, gentlemen, our time is up. Honorable Kivumbi, what's going to be your concluding remark?
My concluding remark is that I hate to say this, but for as long as you have, I said one, if leaders don't live simple, so that their people may simply live. Second thing is, if you don't do away with the corruption the way it is. Third thing is, if you don't prioritize well and you put your money where it matters, you will not develop as a country. Two, the economy is for people to see themselves in the economic pie chart. If you talk about big contracts, roads and whatever, and our people are not there, they are not part of that, they are simply spectators. So if you don't invest adequate money in education, for me the game changer, as I said, we discussed this here, the game changer for Uganda, between you and me, Kamara, why I'm here is because I went to school. Not because some ndokwazi were given to our fathers. It's because we went to school. Therefore, the only game changer that can transcend and transform a country, actually put a country from beyond infinity and beyond project, is to invest in two things. Human capital development. What do? Educate your people, take care of some people. These so-called poor people, okay? We should give them more money for SAGE and then give them a treatment and educate their children.
Okay.
There you will transform and move them from villages.
Honorable Kabbyanga, your parting shot.
First of all, I would like to thank the President for a very good State of Nation address. It was really very positive, and he gave us priority areas, 11 of them, but he also brought out obstacles which we should all, as Ugandans, fight. And one of them is corruption, which he talked about. We have a bit of policy and implementation gaps, which must also be eliminated. We have a bit of duplication, which must also be eliminated, and inconsistencies. If we can eliminate all these, then this country is a very high trajectory.
Didn't you talk about mindset change?
Gentlemen,
including the mindset change of himself.
Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi. Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi and Godfrey Kabbyanga. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
This one's mindset.
And for you, I want to thank you for the privilege of your company.
You need the mindset change.